What's up, guys? This is Rise and welcome to another video. This past weekend I competed in the San Antonio Regional Championships, and I'm going to be taking you through the entire run, my thought process behind the team, and we'll do one of these regional recaps that we haven't done since Louisville, where we finished in 5th place, tied for 5th place. And we are going to see how we performed in San Antonio, where we do make it all the way to the grand finals. So there's lots of matches here, and we are going to get things going straight away as we drove down to San Antonio, home of the Spurs for my basketball fans. And we ran a team of 6 that I had quite a bit of practice with in preparation for this tournament. Also, I should note, this was the first match I played on stream after winning 2 matches off stream. My first opponent was newer to PvP. His name was Chris, and he hadn't met me before. He didn't know me, so he saw that my name was also Chris, and he thought that was kind of funny. And his wife was there supporting him. He was a really nice guy, and he was running a not really a meta team, so it was definitely a big team comp advantage for me. And then my second opponent was actually a fan of the channel, was also a really nice guy, and we had some really competitive games. Whenever someone says they're a fan of the channel before our match, I always get a little bit nervous because I have scary memories of someone that told me he was a fan of the channel in one of my early tournaments in the Play Pokemon Championships, and he just destroyed me. That was a player by the name of Godon Hada, who was actually the second place finisher at the first World Championships. He was my first opponent. But anyway, this is the team of 6 we are running, and it's nothing too crazy, right? Nothing super spicy on this team, pretty meta. However, there was a little bit of thought process I had behind this team, and the thought process was Shadow Feraligatr and Shadow Drapion are probably the 2 best safe swaps in the meta. As most of us know, they're just extremely safe against a lot of teams, and with proper energy management can be so dangerous, can be great sweepers. Same thing can be said about Annihilate. If there's this trainer, TT Ghostmaker, has some really solid checks for Annihilate. However, against certain teams, if there's no Jump Bluff, if there's no Corsola, Annihilate with 2 shields can really run through a lot of teams. So I went with 3 of what I considered the safest Pokemon in the meta: Annihilate, Feraligatr, and Drapion. And then in this meta, I figured there's certain Pokemon that people like to use, like Azumarill, Feraligatr, which Toxapex can actually act as a great counter for. And then you also have Mandibuzz, which can counter the Annihilate quite well. And there's a lot of teams that are a little bit soft to Air Slash Mandibuzz. So both Toxapex and Mandibuzz, although they're not like the strongest neutrally with their movesets, they do have the ability to hard punish certain common Pokemon in the meta. And I liked having things that could actually force opponents to respect not just freely swapping things like Azumarill, freely swapping Annihilate, and make their life a little bit more difficult. And then Diggersby, kind of the same thing. Diggersby is more strong neutrally, but also a really hard check to Corsola, which I figured would be increased usage this weekend, and saw around 40% plus usage rate. So that was the pretty simple thought process behind the team. We had 3 of the most common Pokemon, or 3 of the most safe, I should say, Pokemon, that can also act as sweepers up shields, can act as safe swaps against a lot of teams, or closers. And then we had 3 more bulky, more sort of RPS style Pokemon, honestly, that allowed with this team I could either play flexible with some of my more flexible picks, or I could try to force switch advantage with certain picks and then maybe try to align things in the back. So I liked having those 2 options where maybe I could play very flexible, which I normally lean towards, or I could try to hard punish as well if I needed to in certain matchups. That said, we get into matchup number 1 against TT Ghostmaker here, and Ghostmaker pulled off what you could say is a bit of an upset against Sceptile Ice, who just finished 2nd place in the most recent regional before this in Toronto, to Elam. And here we go. Let's skip ahead a little bit. We're at 1.5 times speed, and Mandibuzz into Diggersby. Now, you might think this is a really positive matchup for Mandibuzz. However, it's closer than you might think. Just because of the sheer bulk of Diggersby, the quick attacks are neutral, and the fire punches are neutral, and Air Slash just isn't the strongest of moves, right? So Air Slash is a little bit slow. It's not doing that much damage, so this is actually a pretty evenly matched matchup right here. Foul Play, probably a little bit more efficient than the non-stab Fire Punch, which will allow Mandibuzz to usually win this matchup. But if Diggersby's like up energy, it probably just straight up wins this matchup itself. Or if shields are committed because of the pacing, I bet Diggersby probably wins if it's willing to expend shields. So they go for another fire punch here. We are going to fire this foul play on charge attack priority in case that he went for good timing. But no, he throws on charge attack priority as well. And then you're going to see in this first battle I have on stream, I make a bit of a mistake. And I didn't want to give him a free farm down on Annihilate. So I swapped Drapion, I guess kind of hoping I would lure out in a Azumarill. But no, he's just going to stay in, obviously. Like, why not? Why just stay in? Why not stay in this matchup with Annihilate? So smart play by TT Ghostmaker. I don't want to let this Drapion go down as quickly, and then he makes a beautiful catch onto a Azumarill. So this is pretty tough right now for us, and our switch timer is not up yet, so we decide to throw the crunch here, and we're not out of it just yet, even though he still has a very healthy Annihilate, because what I could do is maybe bank a crunch here and go for Alligator, but no, for some reason, I decide to expend the crunch here, thinking maybe I could swap Gator and then farm down the Azumarill, but that's simply not going to happen, because after Azumarill throws a charge attack, which we catch, by the way, it's going to be the switch timer up already. So I think maybe if I had banked that crunch and swapped the Feraligatr into the Azumarill, I could have been in a much more positive situation here, where maybe I could have farmed up more energy and outpaced the Annihilate. However, he also could have probably thrown Play Rough at me, and maybe it wouldn't have mattered, because we wouldn't have made that catch on the Manabuzz if we had swapped. So, I don't know. I think the biggest thing I should have done differently in this first game on stream was safe swap Feraligatr instead of Drapion. If I safe swap Feraligatr, he probably does like 5 counters and then catches on a Azumarill, and then we can just build up, and then the Shadow Claws the Annihilate took, maybe it's in crunch range in the end. So I think swapping the Gator was what probably would have won it for me, and when I swapped Drapion, I just put him way too far ahead. So bit of a mistake by me, but also well played by TT Ghostmaker. We go to game number 2. It's a tough lead for me, and this time we're going to safe swap Gator, because Gator's a good safe swap against this team, especially if there's no jump bluff. And I have a very good stats for Alligator, where I am pretty confident I can take a Rage Fist from this range and still reach my second Hydro Cannon here. 1, 2 counters, we survive. And TT Ghostmaker, a little bit of a grimace there. Knows this is not good to go down both Protect Shields. I'm going to come back in with my own Annihilate. And he is going to throw the Rage Fist here. I am going to respect this. It is a boosted Rage Fist, and I am anticipating a potential catch from him. So he goes into Azumarill. I'm going to save this energy and go into Drapion. So I understand that if it's Jump Bluff in the back, I'm in quite a bit of trouble. However, it's probably not Jump Bluff, right? It's probably not Jump Bluff, because if it was Jump Bluff, that would be so ABA weak to Toxapex. So I'm just hoping it's not Jump Bluff, but I'm pretty sure it's not Jump Bluff at least. And we are going to stay in here, of course, with Drapion. Going to have to eat the Play Rough here, which is going to do a lot. And I'm going to bank the energy, get more energy on my Annihilate, do 5 counters. So I gave him the opportunity to throw the Aqua Tail if he wanted, because it wouldn't do that much. And close combat, bang, knocks out after 5 counters worth of damage. We've got residual energy. And we have a move on our Drapion. So honestly, I could probably just blind throw this if I wanted to, but we wait for the typing to show up. We knock out Annihilate. In comes Azumarill, and we counter down to take game number 2, tie the series, 1 game apiece. And we will try to fast forward a bit here to game 3. Game 3. It's a repeat of game number 1 leads. However, I noticed he kept bringing the Azumarill both the first 2 games, and I decided to take a chance and try to line up the Toxapex against it in this game. And Toxapex is a little hit or miss against his team. It really likes the Azu matchup, really likes the Jump Bluff matchup, doesn't really love any of the other matchups, honestly. Even Annihilate is not a great matchup for Toxapex, and Drapion, you only win the 0 shield scenario, you lose all other shield scenarios. So we're aware that it might be the same backline of Azumarill, and I thought maybe it could be like Drapion as well. And I thought like if it was Annihilate or if it was Drapion paired with the Azumarill, I was hoping maybe if I like swapped the Gator at some point, I could lure that out instead of the Azumarill, because Azumarill versus Gator in the 2s is not a good matchup for Azumarill. I was hoping he would like expend energy right away and maybe I could swap Gator, but he always kept some residual energy with his Diggersby, which was smart here. So it kind of kept me from swapping Gator earlier. And he's going to throw Fire Punch here. I am 1 off the foul play. Fire Punch is going to connect. I'm going to throw the foul play here. And then I decide just kind of in the moment to undercharge and get a Shadow Claw head start with Feraligatr. That was kind of like a spur of the moment decision. And luckily for me, I lure out the Annihilate. And I'm pretty confident it's Azumarill in back, because Azumarill is really strong against my team, except for the Toxapex. And Toxapex, as we know, is a really hard punish. Probably the hardest punish, maybe, for Azumarill in the entire game. So we are going to fire off this Hydro Cannon while storing some energy and swap in the Toxapex. And this is pretty much game over, as he is still switch locked in here. So really just had to line things up correctly in this matchup. Toxapex gonna Poison Jab down. No reason for me to throw energy at this point. He's throwing just to try to get his switch clock up, but there's no world where I am going to throw energy at this Azumarill. We're not threatened by it. We're just going to make sure we have 100 energy for Annihilate. And just going to expend the brines here. Toxapex, the toxic pest, as we say. We utilize it here in our first match on stream to knock out Annihilate. We take a bit of a gamble bringing it, and it pays off, which sends us to the winners finals of day number 1. Maybe it was earlier. Let's see. Scroll through, try to find it. There we are. So now we're facing off against Gerald, a terrific battler from California here. Winners finals day 1. This is to get to day number 2. And we have a sneak peek at the matchup here in terms of the lines that we bring game 1. But let's look at the teams of 6 in general. One thing that you notice is, once again, as per usual, Gator looks pretty safe for me. Really only afraid of the Toxapex. And even that, if you're up energy, you can flip. Toxapex looks okay. It's a little bit afraid of Gastrodon. It's a little bit afraid of Malamar. Toxapex doesn't really have any like great matchups here. So not sure if I'll bother bringing that. We'll see. Diggersby looks pretty dang solid. I mean, only afraid of Dugong, really has play against everything else. And then Annihilate as well looks pretty good. Beats actually like 4 out of 6. I mean, beats Dunsparce, Dugong. I would consider Gastrodon a positive matchup because they have to go for the Earth Power. And then the Toxapex as well. I like that matchup as the Annihilate. So Annihilate only afraid of really Malamar and Mandibuzz. So let's head into this first game against Gerald. Feraligatr into Air Slash Mandibuzz. We don't mind this matchup as Feraligatr. Even though they resist the Shadow Claws, the Air Slashes are going to take a while to generate that energy. He does correctly shield the Ice Beam, which isn't great for me. He's going to fire off an Aerial Ace here. And I make a slight misplay here. I farm up a lot, and I think maybe I could live the next Air Slash, but nah, there's no way I'm living that Air Slash. So there was really no reason for me to Hydro Cannon here. I should have went for the Ice Beam, considering I only got to 1 move anyway. So that could have been a costly misplay, but we do get both shields since he knew we had the Ice Beam. And he gives up Switch. He gives up Switch to keep around the Mandibuzz. He's going to Icy Wind us first. And we are going to do 6 counters here in close combat to CMP the Dugong. Make sure that we knock it out. A debuffed Rage Fist would not knock out from this range. Mandibuzz comes in. And now here's the thing. Although I'm like already low and debuffed, I kind of have to shield this because this is just way too much health on Mandibuzz to comfortably get rid of with our Diggersby. So I do shield just to get off this parting close combat that's debuffed. But it makes this Mandibuzz at a much more manageable health. And we are going to keep on farming because we know, based on what's possibly in the back, whether it's Toxapex, whether it's Gastrodon, Malamar, anything really, our energy is more valuable here. Our energy is more valuable than our health on Diggersby. So we are going to build up. We already are at a Scorching Sands here. Trying to get rid of this Gastrodon. This is going to be a close finish here in game 1. We go for the Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands did a little bit less than half. We're going to swap into Annihilate. We get 3 counters, and I know he's still 1 off the double body slam, so there's no reason for me not to shield here. And we are going to correctly shield an Earth Power, and now I'm feeling pretty good that Diggersby will close this out and quick attack down before the next move, which gives us game number 1 against Gerald. Let's see what adjustments are made here in game number 2. It's the Diggersby against the Mandibuzz. Exciting, right? I know. We are the Diggersby this time, so a little bit of a role reversal from some previous matchups. Diggersby going to spam off Fire Punches here, and we are going to just play out this matchup, because let's take a sneak peek at the back lines, right? At the back lines, we have Annihilate. He swaps out to lure it out, which made me wonder if it was like Dunsparce back for a second, but then I'm like, no, it's not Dunsparce, because that would be so ABA weak to oh wait. What would that be ABA weak to? Not really anything, honestly. Mandibuzz is safe against us. So, never mind. I get a little bit unlucky here, so this is a bit of an inconsistency. I thought based off the first matchup, when I did 6 counters in close combat, what if I had Rage Fisted immediately, and then the counters would have been enough in themselves after negating that defense drop? But I get a little bit unlucky here, as you're going to see with what's called damage registration error. 1, 2, 3, 4. This 5th counter should theoretically KO, but the counter damage doesn't register. So you see me tilt the head a little bit there, a little bit unlucky. And because of this debuff, you'll see the Dugong barely lives that counter. I think that counter definitely would have KO'd if not for the debuff. He does get denied here upon entry with this Mandibuzz. Niantic, fix your game, please. This is pretty bad to happen on such a high level, high profile platform. Potentially a big miscue here from both of us, really. I mean, we both throw on chart attack priority. I think I rather would have done 1 there. But we're going to shield up just to make sure that we get off our next Hydro Cannon. And I figured I would live a Body Slam from that range, so I did do 4 for proper timing. And Gerald is just going to take no chances here and throw the Body Slam, make sure he gets rid of us. Gastrodon's still relatively healthy. We come back in with Diggersby, and I think I end up making a costly mistake here in the endgame. So Mandibuzz, if you remember, had almost 100 energy. I think the Mandibuzz has at least 90 energy here. And I'm thinking he's definitely going to throw, but also the game doesn't visually update for me. So if you look on my perspective, right? If you look on my perspective, like the Mandibuzz is not there, but the Mandibuzz is there already doing a full air slash on his perspective. So I stopped tapping for a moment to try and like wait to catch if it comes in, but it's really quick. But within that 1 second, the game doesn't visually update, and not that that made a difference, because I think if I had simply just stayed in, let's pretend I stay in and I don't catch the air slash on Annihilate. Essentially, it's the same situation, except let's say I have a low health Annihilate right now. He still is forced to throw the Body Slam, and then I still would have had my low health Annihilate. So I think I kind of threw that endgame there in game number 2, unfortunately. And you could say, like, unlucky on both sides, right? The damage registration error with the Dugong, and also Gerald missed out on a full air slash. So 2 inconsistencies happening there is pretty bad, but we will persevere to game number 3. Once again, decisive game 3. As they show the instant replay here. And here we go. To move on to the winner's side of day 2, it's Feraligatr into Dugong. Not the best matchup, not the worst matchup. I feel like this matchup, some people like being the Dugong here, some people like being the Feraligatr. I personally prefer being the Feraligatr. And I do an uncharacteristic shield here. Normally I don't shield here because people love to Icy Wind, but for some reason in the moment I decided to shield. Who knows why? So that is not good for me, getting Icy Wind baited. And now a Hydro is not enough to knock out from this range. So I'm going to shield again. And I'm going to like maybe try and save this energy for later and play around with the Gator. But I have to throw a Hydro Cannon now at Dugong. He's going to pivot Gastro. And I'm going to throw a Hydro Cannon here. Now, I think Gerald makes a bit of a mistake by pivoting the Gastro because the Mandibuzz is really safe against my team. And if he had pivoted the Mandibuzz, I would have had really no choice but to come in with my own Mandibuzz. And then maybe Gastrodon ends up sweeping. So I do get pretty fortunate in this game for that reason, because this matchup is so strong for our Mandibuzz. It's going to give it some extra energy coming out of here. Gastrodon's going to fire off another Body Slam to chip us. And then he's going to pivot Mandibuzz to not give us more farm. But we already have an Aerial Ace here, so we're going to try and do as much chip damage as possible. I do pivot my Gator, and I can do 4 Shadow Claws. Just going to go for Hydro Cannon. I mean, Hydro Cannon is really all I need for chip in this situation. And we get his final Protect Shield. He's just going to throw right away, get rid of this Feraligatr. And now it's going to be how much chip damage can our Mandibuzz do against his Mandibuzz to hopefully set up our Annihilate to sweep. We're going to throw the Aerial Ace here and just keep on farming. And once again, Gerald makes a slight misplay. He thought I was on my 4 cycle, but I was on my 5 cycle. So he actually gives me a free Air Slash that I'm able to take advantage of. And it's going to be a charge attack priority here, as he is at double Aerial Ace. I wasn't confident that I could reach another after this Aerial Ace that I take, so I just swap immediately. I'm going to have to take an Aerial Ace here, and I know he's 3 off, so I know I have to throw Rage Fist immediately. His switch timer isn't quite up, and we get to the Rage Fist, and this is going to be a close finish. I mean, we are going to boost our attack here, but Gastrodon is still kind of healthy. Gastrodon is forced to throw the Body Slam here. Is this going to knock out? Yes, it is. But do we get the Air Slash down before the Mud Slap down? Yes, we do. And that is going to give us game number 3. Some really intense series here on day number 1 for us as we move on in the tournament. And I think we do an interview with DeFi after this matchup. But always nice to make day number 2, of course. And this was a little bit funny to some people because normally when DeFi has interviewed me, I kind of tower over her. So she decided to tower over me by standing on the stage. And we do a little interview here.
Standing tall after that victory in that last battle. Now, Rise, I want to talk about that moment, like your mindset going into game 3, because game 2 you had a moment where you kind of threw your head back, like, oh, like with that Protect Shield. What do you tell yourself kind of going into game 3?
Game 2, I wasn't sure if I kind of threw at the end when I swapped the Annihilate. Maybe if I had just stayed in, I would have won. So I've tried not to get too high, not get too low in tournaments, and just tried to keep my composure and think of a good line for game 3.
I'm also really curious, both you and Gerald have Toxapex on your team of all things. What's the read there?
Well, Feraligatr, Shadow Feraligatr is so good as a safe swap. It's one of the few things that can kind of punish it as a safe swap, so I think that's one reason to bring it. And of course the Azumarill is like top meta, and it's I got the Toxapex lined up on Azumarill in an earlier match. And when you get that situation, you're in a really good spot.
Awesome. And you are here representing Legends United. What other teammates are here today cheering you all on?
We got quite a few, actually. Arrow, Nighttime, Jangles, Kemku, Frankie. If I'm missing anyone, sorry. And they're, you know, in my first match off stream, I played a newer trainer, and he asked me if I was wearing like an English Premier League jersey. And I was like, no, it's actually our like, Pokemon Go team, so that was kind of funny.
Excellent. Well, good luck to you tomorrow in the finals. And casters, let's go ahead and send it back to you.
More like shrink to occasion.
Shrink to
Rise
occasion.
looking a little short
there.
in that interview there with
funny.
DeFi.
So that wraps up day number 1 for us, which goes relatively smoothly, right? We always the goal, you want to get to day 2 on the winner side if possible, because in these double elimination format tournaments, if you go down to losers bracket, you have to win twice as many games to then try and go all the way. So we get to day 2 on the winner side, where we would end up having to play our teammate Frankie, and this sets us up for day number 2 in a unique matchup here where Frankie is actually running a Shadow Wall Rain. Now, Shadow Wall Rain, I thought was a pretty clever pick. If you looked at a lot of teams, it was really strong. However, we have some pretty solid answers on our team. I mean, Annihilate, Toxapex, and Feraligatr, I would all consider solid checks to the Wall Rain, just because the Earthquake doesn't really threaten to one-shot Toxapex. It does like 50, 60%. And the Sludge Wave plus the jabs does kind of threaten to one-shot because the jabs are actually adding up. So we have like 3 solid checks to the Wall Rain. I wasn't too worried about the Wall Rain. Mandibuzz was a little bit more of a nuisance for me because Mandibuzz, I was aware, is pretty dang safe against my team. However, it only has like one really positive matchup, right? It has one really positive matchup, against Annihilate. Everything else on my team at least has play. I would say Mandibuzz is like slightly favored against Diggersby, maybe slightly favored against Drapion if it's Air Slash, of course. But it's not like anything really gets punished by it on my team except for the Annihilate. So I was planning on bringing Toxapex this series a lot just because it was only afraid of Clodsire, and even Clodsire has to take super effective damage from the Brine. So I thought Toxapex looked really solid for me in this matchup. Beats Serp, beats Mandibuzz actually in all even shields. Beats Wall Rain, beats Feraligatr. Doesn't really love Drapion, but at least has some play against it. So let's go. Game number 1 against our teammate Frankie here. And he was playing himself down. He was saying, don't 2-0 me too quick. And this is a matchup here. I can give you guys some insight how I kind of make a mistake here. Well, not kind of. I definitely make a mistake here. And I learned something when I did my recap stream on Twitch yesterday. I learned why I made this mistake. And that's a good thing with reliving some of these tournaments, is when you make a mistake, like understanding why. So I know, based off the simulation, in this one shield scenario, I could show you guys on PvPoke, but I don't want to reveal the IVs. So in this one shield scenario, I know Frankie's got a good Feraligatr that's going to live in the one shields according to PvPoke. So I throw Fire Punch so that he doesn't get to another Hydro Granite. However, the one shield simulation actually has it so like you're baiting Fire Punch for the shield, and then the Scorching Sands, it lives. It doesn't actually account for landing the Scorching Sands first and then committing to the farm down. So that was something I had in my mind, is that this Feraligatr will get to another Hydro Cannon after you land the Scorching Sands, but it actually doesn't account for that one quick attack. I know for some of you, that might sound kind of complicated, but I think some of you will know exactly what I'm saying there, and how like that minute little detail changes here. So I actually could have committed to a quick attack down here, but instead I throw the Fire Punch thinking that he would get to the Hydro. But as you see, like if I hadn't thrown that Fire Punch, that quick attack right there, I would have had one more quick attack, would have knocked out. So I would have been able to commit to a full farm down and would have been able to win switch. But again, he would have been up a shield, but that would have been better still, I think. Well, unless I gave him a full farm with Mandibuzz, honestly, then we still might have been in trouble. But this is going to be tough now. We do successfully land the Ice Beam, and I do make a catch onto Toxapex here. But this is not going to be easy because he's going to counter Toxapex with the Clodsire. And this is not where Toxapex wants to be, not one bit. And I'm trying to think at this point, how do we try and close out this game? He's going to fire off the Earthquake, and he's already got quite a bit of residual energy. Debating if I want to expend my Protect Shield or not, but I don't know if Toxapex can close this out if I was to use my Protect Shield on it. So I save it for Gator so I can shield here. Going to successfully shield an Earthquake, which is nice for us. And we're going to throw a Hydro Cannon here. And now I try to undercharge. Oh, wait, no, not yet. We throw this Hydro Cannon. We get the final Protect Shield. Frankie is going to fire off this Aerial Ace right away. And it's not going to be quite enough. And now I'm thinking, if I knock this out, I simply just get farmed down by Claude. So I go for an undercharge, but it's just not nearly enough. It knocks out. Not only would I have needed that to not knock out, but I would have needed it to like leave it for me to get at least a couple of poison jabs. So just not a very good undercharge by me at all. And we are going to get poison stung down here and drop game number 1 to Frankie. So the big takeaway from that game 1 was really the lead matchup. If I had committed to that farm down the lead matchup, maybe things would have gone better. Or if I had undercharged better, we had a couple of potential win conditions playing differently in those 2 separate ways. And here we go. Game number 2. This alignment looks pretty dang solid for us. So it's going to be up to Frankie really to try and pull some tricks out of the bag. Because on paper, right, Mandibuzz should be able to win alignment against Drapion here. He tries to catch on his Mandibuzz, and I don't fall for it, which is good for us. And we get to align our Toxapex here onto Mandibuzz, which is good for our Toxapex. We do win all even shield scenarios in this matchup. Just because the jabs are, I think, a lot more efficient than the air slashes, and the Sludge Wave is a lot more efficient than the foul play. So 2 very bulky Mons. One just has more efficient charge attacks. And, sorry, Frankie's actually running Dark Pulse, not foul play. I decide to throw after 5 here. I didn't think Brine would be quite enough from this range, so I decided to go for the Sludge Wave just to knock it out. Don't want him surviving and getting off another move. And we are going to throw a Brine here. Perhaps a slight misplay by Frankie. I think you rather would probably get rid of the Toxapex than take that Brine. But he goes up to 100 energy and is going to knock out our Toxapex. 99 energy, I think, to be specific. We are going to make a heads-up play here. So we understand Frankie might be tempted to throw on good timing, like do 1 Poison Sting and then throw Aqua Tail. We know we have an Aerial Ace banked, so we're actually going to throw it immediately to force Frankie to use his Protect Shield if he wants to keep this energy. Versus if we had let Frankie throw first, he would have got off 2 Aqua Tails there, potentially, without ever throwing up a shield. Now he swaps. This is perhaps unnecessary by me, but I thought this might just make things a little bit more comfortable for Feraligatr by chipping with Aerial Ace first and then going Gator. And this matchup I really like as Feraligatr. I mean, as long as it's not like the zero shield scenario, Feraligatr is just going to significantly outpace Walrein. Walrein can flip this like up energy if you land the Earthquake, of course, in like the 1s. But up a Protect Shield, Gator is going to be very strong. I'm just going to let it go at this point. And at this point, it's kind of like, do I use my charge attack? Do I just commit to fast attacks? I think either is fine. Frankie understands there's still a somewhat healthy Mandibuzz in the back. And we take a pretty convincing game number 2 where we have just really good alignment. I don't think there's realistically a ton Frankie could have done that game. Unless I maybe made some mistakes. And this sets up another decisive game 3. I kind of forgot how many decisive game 3s I had consecutively. This is actually kind of crazy. So this is our, our 3rd consecutive decisive game 3. And it's going to be the Mandibuzz Mirror. Now, I thought about this, and I was thinking, like, I don't want to risk losing Switch in this mirror, or like having to go down a shield in this mirror, and leaving it up to chance of like who's going to win this Mandibuzz mirror. So if he gave me a window where he didn't have that much residual energy, I was going to try and get him into Hydro Cannon range and then swap my Feraligatr and force him to swap something in behind energy. And here he's going to throw the Dark Pulse, and luckily we're able to correctly shield Dark Pulse as opposed to Aerial Ice, and this is where Frankie makes a bit of a mistake, and he goes Gator. Now, or he goes Clodsire as opposed to Gator. Now, you might be wondering why on earth would he go Clodsire? Well, he was predicting that I would switch it up to Diggersby in the back and just making a call in the moment. So he goes Clodsire here because if he goes his own Gator, then Diggersby would potentially be a major menace for his Clodsire. So he doesn't think it's Toxapex. And we are going to see that be positive for us here. Gator up so much energy is going to really make life difficult for this Clodsire. Clodsire will get off this Earthquake. I'm going to Protect Shield. I understand even if this is a bait, I can outpace the Hydro Cannon, really put the pressure on Frankie. And I just want to try and get rid of this Clodsire because if Clodsire is out of the picture, I mean, Toxapex is pretty good against his entire team. So I get rid of the Clodsire. It's Gator in the back, and now I know I'm in a really strong position. We're going to pull his final Protect Shield. And Frankie is going to build up to 5 more and then catch on his Mandibuzz, but this is totally okay with us. And we are going to swap our own Mandibuzz. He's forced to expend this Ice Beam here. Not 100% sure if Hydro Cannon would have been enough. It would have been really close. But Ice Beam definitely enough. And then he sees the Toxapex and you see his reaction. He tried to make the call. And I did feel a little bit bad just because, like, if he goes Gator into Gator, it's I don't think it's over for me. Because I don't think it's over for me because I had a delay in the switch timer and I had energy. So I feel like I could have played out Gator. I could have, like, maybe gotten shields down and danced around still. But definitely he would have had a chance there if he had swapped differently. So a little bit unlucky for Frankie, one of my teammates, but GG's to him, man. And this sets up a rivalry match that they were talking about a lot on the stream. And let's see. Is it soon or is it in a while? Actually, I forget. This sets up a rivalry match between myself and Dunebug97, and they actually did a interview with us not before the match. I think there was a couple people that got confused and thought they were interviewing us like before the match, but no, this interview was done on Friday as an idea that Speediest Chief had to highlight us as rivals and like rivalries in Pokemon Go. So we'll take a listen to this interview.
We are now in the dual destiny season of Pokemon Go, and some rivalries were just meant to be. Two trainers were destined to clash time and time again in some of the fiercest battles that we will see in our lifetimes. These two trainers probably have the most intense rivalry in all of North America. This is Rise to Occasion and Dunebug97. We're going to go over their rivalry and ask them some very personal questions about themselves and their opponent sitting next to them. First question for you both is, how many times have you met on the Play Pokemon competitive circuit?
7.
7 times.
All right. So what's the total win-loss for that record, though?
Dune's got the advantage 4-3, but I did have a 3-1 lead at one point.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was a very commanding 3-1 lead at one point.
Oh, so Rise was up 3-1, and then Dunebug reverse swept. Kind of reminds me of a San Antonio tournament that happened previously. But next question. Of those 7 meetings, which one was the most hotly contested, the most difficult one to get through?
I'm going to say it has to be the Milwaukee, the first storied meeting between us two in Milwaukee, the grand finals, and the reset.
I'd agree with that from my perspective. And then also Arlington in the second season, I had a 2-0 lead against Dune, and then he reverse swept. And that was when only the top 2 qualified for Worlds. So
yeah,
that was a huge reverse sweep, and he went on to win that tournament.
All right. So what is one word that perfectly summarizes your rivalry as players?
It's storied.
Historic. I was going to say the same thing.
All right.
And that might sound kind of like, okay, guys, historic rivalry. But One thing I will say is from the first season and like the Milwaukee matchup, it kind of like set the tone in a way because that was such an epic series where Dune had come from the loser side of the bracket. He had won so many matches in a row, and then he sweeps me 3-0 to reset the bracket. And then he goes up 2-1. He's one game away. And I had lost 5 out of 6 games essentially to Dune after being on the winner's side. I win game number 4, tied up 2-2. We tie. We simultaneous knockout game 5. I don't think that's ever happened since then, a tie in the decisive game to win a tournament. And then we replay for essentially a game 6, and I was able to kind of RPS him and win game 6, but he made it actually really close despite getting kind of RPS'd. So that was pretty crazy and a pretty like epic way to kind of kick off the championship series in the first, even though it wasn't the first tournament, it was like still the first season.
All right. Actually, a lot of alignment there. That's interesting. Now, Dunebug, what is your rival's greatest weakness?
Kittens.
Oh, really, Rise? You're a kitten fan?
That's news to me. In terms of gameplay, Speedy, I don't know. I think we still got to find out what Dune's biggest weakness is.
Really? So Dune has no weaknesses. Is that what you're saying?
To point one out, I think I'd be spitballing.
Ooh, Dune, does Rise have any?
Don't want to reveal any info for this weekend potentially. Okay. Because I think we're gonna have our 8th meeting this weekend.
Oh, Dune, does Rise have any glaring weaknesses?
Remember, this was on
Anything
Friday.
that you can pinpoint?
Nah,
reading.
I think Rise is
Day 2 is Sunday.
just a protect shield in his own way.
Wow. Okay, we're getting a lot of compliments here. Let's see if we can stir up some of that rivalry heat. So, Rise, if you could do one thing the way that Dunebug does, whether it's catching charge attacks, reading lines, making the right plays, reverse sweeping, anything like that, which specific thing would it be?
You actually said it first. I think Dune has an uncanny knack we've seen of catching charge attacks. Sometimes you know when someone's going to catch, and he has just a way of reading at the most unpredictable times and making some huge catches that have flipped big matches for him.
Dune?
I think what I'd want to do. Sorry.
You're okay.
Okay. I think I would love to have Rise's like team reading in endgame scenarios and like looking for those win conditions in the end.
All right. I think you're pretty good at that already, but Rise, I think, is just a little bit better. So, Dune, coming back to you, which one of you takes the bigger risk in battle?
I would say I do take the biggest risks in battles because of all the catches I try to make. Okay. Sometimes they can pay off really well for me, but sometimes they can really backfire.
Rise?
I'd have to agree. I remember Lurgan Rocket in 23 EJB once told me, like, Rise, you play too safe. And I had just come off of a runner-up finish at NAIC. I'm like, you're like telling me I play the wrong way. Like, I'm pretty happy with how I've been doing, but yeah. I'd have to agree. I think Dune plays really aggressive, and there's not many people better. I think him and SJ probably are like the best at overcoming bad situations.
All right. I'm a big SJ fan as well, so I like that comparison. Final question. This is important. I want you both to answer spontaneously with no hesitation. Are you ready? Final question. If the fate of the world was decided by a Show 6 style Pokemon Go tournament, but only one of you could play, which one would it be?
Rise.
Rise, you hesitated.
Dune, sorry. I wanted to give an explanation.
Okay.
In sports and esports, I think it's very much what have you done for me lately in good form, and I think Dune has been in really consistent form with top cuts this season. So right now, I think it's got to be him.
All right, Dune, you didn't refer to yourself in the third person. You didn't say Dune.
Yeah, I just feel like Rise just sometimes has that mental fortitude that sometimes I can lack.
Rise is definitely the steady hand, right?
We both have a good record in grand finals as well. I think Dune and I both only have one loss in a grand finals. So,
that's correct.
So we both have been able.
No, I have two. One to you and then one at EUIC.
Oh, right. But still a winning record for both of us in grand finals.
All right, everybody. I think this is the best rivalry in NA. Let me know what you think the best rivalry is in EU, LATAM, and APAC as well. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Good luck this weekend. Back to the action.
That was a fun little interview. I thought that was a cool idea that Speedy had, and I think it adds to like the storylines, you know, of like rivalries and such, which is good to have in any sort of like competition. And they definitely kept hyping up the rivalry here, but it is a pretty hype rivalry, and it's cool to be a part of. And one thing that I've said is like, I'll touch on it after the matchup, but here we go. Dunebug 97, 4-time regional champion, European international runner-up against Rise 2 occasion. That's me. 3-time regional champion, also an international runner-up. And yeah, Dune and I probably have like pretty similar resumes in terms of the championship series, except he has one more regional than I. And here we go. It's going to be Annihilate into Superior. I liked my Annihilate against Dune's team. It was only really afraid of Azumarill. I honestly don't even mind Annihilate against Talonflame. I don't think that's a bad matchup at all, really. And once again, for Alligator, safe swap as per usual. Looks pretty good. Only afraid of like Superior and Drapion. So I guess I kind of just ran my safest 3 here in game number 1. We're going to play out this matchup and try and do what we can with Annihilate. And I make a call here that he's going for the Aerial Ace instead of the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant does more damage, but Aerial Ace is super effective, and it still does a considerable amount. So we're actually going to call it. Dune, I actually go 1 over here, because I know he probably isn't going to want to CMP me on like a close combat and just lose that CMP. So he goes over. I Rage Fist bait, and I do get the Protect Shield. And I was debating if I wanted to shield here, but I said, you know what? I'll just let this go and come in with Drapion and start getting ahead energy, thinking that he would just like pivot immediately. But he actually doesn't pivot immediately. Instead, he builds up energy first and goes Azumarill. And honestly, it would have been probably better if I had thrown immediately, because then I could have just gone into for Alligator right away. But instead, I build up a lot, which actually might come in handy for the end game, having that extra energy against Diggersby. We come in with for Alligator here, and I am still going to let this go. And I actually am predicting that it's Diggersby in the back at this point, because he almost has to bring Diggersby against my team in a way. It doesn't have to, but Toxapex is really good against his team. Toxapex beats Azu, beats Talonflame, beats Superior. Neutral-ish against Dugong. I would say, like, if shields are expended, Dugong starts to favor that matchup. And then Drapion is like meh for Toxapex, but Diggersby is his only legit counter to my Toxapex, so that's why I'm like pretty much predicting it's in the back. And oh, do I have this? I had it on normal speed and I didn't even realize, because these battles against Dune are so intense, bro. He does grab our Protect Shield with the Ice Beam, and I know this might not quite knock out Azumarill, so I'm kind of anticipating a combo play, but it would just be so risky to throw my energy there if he doesn't combo play. So we have to use our final Protect Shield. I save that energy, come in with Drape, and know that he's going to get to an attack. But with the Diggersby that I'm predicting, I'm thinking maybe all this energy can still give me a win condition. So we have nearly 3 Aqua Tails. We are 1 Aqua Tail away from triple. Here comes Aqua Tail. Numero uno. Bang. Aqua Tail dos. We're 1 off the 3rd. He's only at 2 quick attacks. And he is going to catch on Azu here, but I'm going to undercharge this because my switch timer's up and I can come in Gator, and I've got 2 Hydro Cannons. And he is still not at the Fire Punch yet. And I think Dune's realizing now that I've got the double Hydro. And with minimal HP, but like nearly 200 energy, Feraligatr and Drapion actually tag team the Diggersby to take game number 1. Game number 2. We go with this line. And one thing I forgot to mention at the start of the video is stay tuned for our Go Battle League #1 video where I run a team very similar to this line that we run here. But here we go. Drapion versus Diggersby. You may think this is bad for Drapion, but honestly, not really. If you're going to successfully shield Scorching Sands, it starts to benefit Drapion more and more. Aqua Tail is just so fast, only 4 to every Aqua Tail. He's going to go for the Scorching Sands here, and I'm going to Protect Shield. I sense that switch advantage could be important. As we know, Azumarill is good against our team. Azumarill is good against our team if it avoids Toxapex. So I'm debating, and decide, yeah, I need to try and fight for switch here. And he is going to catch again on Azumarill. So he makes another Azu catch, but I'm going to bank a crunch here and go into Gator. And now our Mandibuzz is avoiding Azumarill. And if you look at Dune's team, Mandibuzz only needs to avoid Azumarill and Dugong. And if he was running a Diggersby lead, well, logically, it probably is not a Dugong in the back, because that would be very ABA weak to Annihilate, which we led game #1. So a lot of mind games there. We're going to get off this Hydro Cannon, chipping Azu. Azu's going to get off a Parting Ice Beam to get rid of Gator, but this is okay with us, because I can come back in with Drapion. Here. And get off an Aqua Tail. I think Dugong might be expecting Annihilate in the back. I'm not sure. And I'm going to go for another Aqua Tail here, get the final Protect Shield. And I'm going to actually stay in, forcing him to expend the Aqua Tail here. I'd rather just him use it now than use it on my Mandibuzz. And then we reveal the Mandibuzz. And he says GG's, because he understands that he just doesn't have enough firepower with these two Pokemon to deal enough damage to this bulky Mandibuzz. And we are just going to commit to an Air Slash down at this point. And sometimes I'm a little bit boring. Like, I know some people like to look at the camera and celebrate, but I just, I never celebrate early. I just make sure I close out the game. And Dune was kicking himself a little bit afterwards, because he said if he just played out the lead matchup, and lined things up differently in the back, he probably wins that game. And I think he's probably right. So once again, a little bit fortuitous for me, but we get the win. Oh, and I think they do an interview here. So as you might have heard in the previous interview, oh, what are they saying?
At the same time, they were even teammates at one point, and then they started battling early on. Doonbug had the upper hand, and then throughout the years, throughout the seasons, now Rise to Occasion has tied it up. But key for him in San Antonio, he is moving on that winner's side of the bracket.
Hey, Doonbug last year fell to the loser side bracket in this exact venue, in this very city, only to come back.
So as you may have heard in the studio interview that we did together, we had played 7 times, which I believe was the most of any 2 players in the championship series. This is number 8 now. Dune had the series lead 4-3, and I was able to even up the series with this win. Now 4 matches to 4, and we do another interview.
They have faced each other.
Both
with
placed
DeFi.
Well,
the tower over Rise to Occasion.
thank you, Will. And it is Rise towering over today, taking his rivalry with Doonbug to 4-4 with 8 matches in the championship series. How does it feel having achieved this with your rivalry?
It feels good to even up the series. He had actually won the last 3 meetings we've had in regionals, so to stop that streak he was on and even up feels good.
Awesome. What I noticed about this most recent battle, there was some Toxapex and some Diggersby play. Can you talk a little bit to those 2 Pokemon specifically?
Yeah, Toxapex and Diggersby you might know as a great core in the Go Battle League. Oftentimes, for those watching at home, if you're playing your Go Battle League sets, you see a Diggersby, it might be paired with a Toxapex. The reason for that is they cover each other's weaknesses really well. So that core has been pretty strong for me this weekend.
Excellent. And tell me a little bit about how it feels to be back in the winners finals here in the championship series.
It feels really good. I'm excited to play best of 5s. It's been a while since I've done best of 5s and have had some, mediocre performances. I'm my own worst critic. I hold myself to like high standards with performances. So I think I only top cut like 2 of my last 5 tournaments, which I know for some people might sound crazy. Oh, like only 2 of 5, but it definitely feels good to be back in top 3 at this point. But I'm not getting too excited yet.
All right, well, we are all excited to see you in the winners finals shortly, but for now, let's kick it back over to our casters.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. It looks like Rise had a growth spurt since the last time.
Come on.
Since DeFi was standing on the stage. This sets up winners finals against one Mr. Studmuffins. We had a long time to wait, actually. Long time to wait. Oh, I went too far. Hovering over. Here we are. Against Studmuffins, and honestly,
series is where we stand.
I'm kind of
we've seen
impressed.
this all tournament long. Studmuffins.
Mute the commentators again. Oh, sorry. Spoiler of the first 2 games. You don't know who won which game, though. Oh, now you do. My bad. Shoot. Okay. Studmuffins has really come on the scene the last couple seasons strong. Does a lot of practice tournaments. I know he's always getting in reps in practice tournaments. And as we pause the video to just take a look at these teams down here, the main thing that stood out to me was how good my Annihilate was. He doesn't really have any hard check to my Annihilate. I feel like there's no reason for me not to bring Annihilate against his team. Also, I thought Diggersby looked pretty good. I guess, like, yeah, he does have Annihilate. He does have Superior, but, like, Diggersby can actually fight back against Superior with that Fire Punch buff now. And, of course, we know Gator, like, isn't the best for Diggersby, but it's not bad by any means. So, yeah, Annihilate was just kind of, like, the standout pick on my team in this matchup. And I'm honestly impressed Studmuffins got to this point without really having a hard Annihilate check. Because, like I talked about with my team building, I actually originally had Talonflame in the Mandibuzz spot, but I decided with Talonflame, I just did not have a strong enough check to Annihilate, and that was one of the main reasons for the Mandibuzz swap, was to be a good Annihilate check. Game number 1, R-Mandy into Gator. So we are going to stay in here, and if possible, I do want to preserve shields for my Annihilate in the back. So I'm going to take this. It's a Hydro Cannon, fortunately for us. I'm going to go for the Aerial Ace Bay. Honestly, like, this is kind of unnecessary. Like, how much energy is this really saving me? It's saving me 1 extra Air Slash to the next Aerial Ace. He's going to throw the Ice Beam here, and I decided to shield because he threw that on bad time. He kind of rushed it. And in comes Moltres, and I kind of hesitate, actually. The hesitation gave him an extra Sucker Punch there because I thought he might switch. And I stay in. Oh, I guess I just build up energy first, and then I go into Diggersby, knowing that he has to Brave Bird me here. He has to debuff himself to do considerable damage. After the Brave Bird, I Fire Punch instantly just to put the pressure on. And he's going to let it go, and he's going to not get off the Ancient Power. I think he actually might have... I think he might have, like, tapped the screen first, not realizing he had the Ancient Power. So a little bit of a break for me. As we're going through some of these replays, we'll have like a chat in the end of this tournament about how we're feeling and emotions and stuff. But we get a lot of breaks, as it looks like, throughout this tournament. Here we go, Earthquake. We're gonna no shield Diggersby, even though we're in a good matchup, just because we want Cloudsire to expend that energy, and I figure like saving a shield for Ape could be good. He's going to throw Sludge Bomb here at our Mandibuzz. I swap to force him to expend energy and keep our Ape around, but unfortunately what this swap ends up doing is gives him a very big Poison Sting down here, so this is not ideal. He has so much energy on Cloudsire, but I do have a Rage Fist, and I throw it immediately to get his final Protect Shield and to boost my Annihilate as soon as possible. That's the bigger reason, just boost my counter damage as soon as possible. I do correctly shield Earthquake, and now he's going to go for another Earthquake. This is going to connect, but Annihilate doesn't take much damage from the stings, so Earthquake, we're still able to hang on. I know that Gator doesn't have energy, but I just want to not take Shadow Claw damage because I knew Claude was dry. So I figure just get rid of it as soon as possible, not take claw damage, and then counter down Clodsire. So we take game number 1 here. And we move on to game number 2. Gator versus Gator. Which Gator will win? Ends up being a charge attack priority here. I'm debating whether I want to protect shield or not. And I decide to let it go. He's going to shield. And I'm going to safe swap Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz is pretty safe against his team if it avoids Dunsparce. And even Dunsparce is not that bad for Mandibuzz. Like, yeah, you have the super effective Rock Slide and Rollout, but it's not like those are that strong of moves in terms of damage. I mean, Rollout's pretty good, but like Rock Slide isn't. So it's not like Mandibuzz is going to get hard punished by a Dunsparce, more like soft punished. Here comes Claude, spamming off Sludge Bombs, bombs away. And we're going to go for a big overfarm here, trying to save this energy if possible. I go to 100 energy. I kind of want to save this energy. He's also super loaded on energy, so I actually swap for Alligator, and I at least force him to expend energy right away. Now I make maybe a slight error here. I do an Air Slash on my Mandibuzz when I'm already capped on energy, so perhaps I should have just foul played right away there instead of worrying about timing. And I do one more and throw. And you're going to see this actually doesn't quite knock out Claude. So he pivots into Moltres. And Moltres is going to get a bit of a head start here, which is kind of scary for us. We're going to swap in Annihilate. I actually didn't even think about this in the moment, but what I realized watching this back on my stream was that this Brave Bird was ridiculously smart, because what this did is it gave me less farm and guaranteed the shield, guaranteed less farm. And now it's going to allow the Gator to outpace by 1. Imagine if he had tried to Ancient Power bait there. Even if he gets the shield, it probably just gives me more farm and then I win the game. But the smart Brave Bird to debuff himself actually wins him the game. So nice recognition there by Studmuffins as he takes game number 2 against us. Series tied 1-1. And we are going to introduce Toxapex here in game number 3 against the Dunsparce. And this is not bad for Toxapex, even though they're super effective Drill Run. It's not quite going to two-shot Toxapex, which makes this not that bad of a matchup. It's definitely not worth like switching out of, in my opinion. He's going to fire off a Drill Run here. And once again, he kind of has to bring Clodsire in a sense against my team for like the Toxapex Annihilate coverage. So I was predicting Clodsire in the back, and I figured if I went Drape into Feraligatr behind energy, I mean, that's kind of a disaster. So I go Annihilate here. I do get the charge attack priority, and I make a read here. So this is something I talked about on my stream, and it's something I've talked about in videos. One thing you often hear people preach in this game is like waiting out your switch clock, but like you don't always want to wait out your switch clock. There are situations you want to come in right away. This is one of those situations. He is still switch locked with Feraligatr. Feraligatr is dry. If I come in right away like I do here, I don't give him an opportunity to catch this Aqua Tail. I force him to either use his final Protect Shield or let it go. And we are going to spam off the Aqua Tail here, grab the final Protect Shield from Sparse. And, oh, you see my reaction because I tried to wait a turn and catch. So you see me tap Toxapex, but it's a little too late because I waited a turn. I thought he might wait, but I think he just pressed it right away. So I'm a little bit upset with that. And then he's going to swap Clodsire. Now, I don't expect him to throw exactly on 8, so I make a call here that he's not going to throw exactly on 8. He could have Earthquaked here right away, and that's game over. But I throw on 8, banking an Aqua Tail. So I have an Aquatail banked here. And then I think Studmuffins lost track of Toxapex, and he actually allows me to get off the brine here. He allows me to get off the brine, and he fires off the Sludge Bomb, not sure if I would reach another brine or not. So he expends energy. I was counting. You saw me counting on fingers here. One, like trying to count the energy. I'm trying to figure out how many poison stings I need to do because I know Dunsparce is 2 away. And I throw 1 poison sting. And you got the Aquatail. I did lag a turn there, but it didn't matter. Aquatail knocks out. And this is going to be a CMP tie on the winning move. And a really good win for us. But to be fair, I'm sure Studmuffins probably feels like he probably should have had this game if he made a few different plays in that end game. So chat was kind of going crazy with this win. And I was really happy with this win too. I thought it was a pretty crazy win. But like if I was in Studmuffin shoes, I would probably have the opposite feeling and be like, man, like I definitely could have done this if I had thrown the Sludge Bomb before I let the brine get off from Toxapex. That was probably the key moment. So it goes both ways, and that is 2 games to 1 here. This is a best of 5 in the winners finals to get to the grand finals. Here we go. Battle of the Dark Flyers, Mandibuzz into Galarian Moltres. We are going to stay in this matchup. With Snarl, this is a pretty terrible matchup. With Air Slash, this is not that bad for Mandibuzz. It's actually pretty close. He's going to go for the Brave Bird to inflict more damage and then pivot into Gator. Luckily, I'm 3 away, so I can fire off some chip damage here on good timing. And I'm actually going to pivot immediately into Annihilate. And people thought this was kind of weird, but once again, I know it's probably always going to be Clodsire somewhere. I shield, and I know based off the timing, I'm going to be able to CMP here and win the CMP. He's going to shield, which I think is actually a smart shield to get shields down. Shields down is probably better for Clodsire and for Moltres. And I am going to give him that final shield. He's going to hard pivot into Clod to not give me more farm. I'm going to throw an 8, and Close Combat would do more raw damage here, but I wanted to Rage Fist to force him to Earthquake me. I didn't want to like give him an opportunity to Sludge Bomb me. Maybe even with the Close Combat debuff, Sludge Bomb still wouldn't knock out, but we at least force him to Earthquake. We come in Diggersby, which is going to be in a really good matchup here. And we're going to overfarm. I think I get denied there, but it is what it is. And now his switch timer is going to be up. So I probably should have... Maybe I should have thrown earlier. I wait a turn to avoid him making the catch. He was about to try and catch there, trying to tap for it, but he was in the middle of a Poison Sting. In comes Moltres, and we're going to fire a Fire Punch right away, put the pressure on. And he kind of has to let this go, knowing that he needs to land a Brave Bird here. And I'm debating at this point, do I just commit to fast attacks? Do I throw my charge attack? I end up throwing my charge attack. I'm not sure if this was the right play or not. I think maybe just committing fast attacks at this point probably would have been better. But I'm almost at that second Fire Punch, so I do force him to throw here. He debuffs himself, and Air Slash will KO. So he actually swaps to clear the debuff. How close is he to that Ancient Power? Not quite enough. I do think Ancient Power probably would have been enough to knock out Mandibuzz there. And we're able to take down Studmuffins to grab the win and go to the grand finals. Now, meanwhile, on the loser side of the bracket was Mr. Elite. So we started on the winner side of the bracket, right? Elite started on the loser side. So he had to go through like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 players to get to this point. He also lost on round 3, day 1. So I'm just kind of guesstimating. I could just look up the bracket right now. Maybe I'll do that here. Just Google it to see just how many matches he had won in a row at this point. Challenge San Antonio. So while Rise, myself, was 7-0 at this point in the tournament, Elite in the stacked group B was 1-0, 2-0, 2-1. So he lost his third round to Out of Pocket. And then in the loser side, he had to win, let's see, 1, 2, 3 games, which puts him at 5-1. And then he won 6 games to get to this point, the grand final. So Elite at this point is 11-1 heading into the grand finals against 7-0 myself. And here we go. It's grand finals time. Oh, but maybe we should do the interview first. Let's do the grand finalist interview. It's always a treat.
Response to a
lot of help there, and it wasn't going to get so much help, unfortunately. The Annihilate didn't really have too many destinations. Although, so
As I've seen, Will Dunphy here, and I do have our 2 finalists in the lounge with me, Rise to Occasion and Elite. I want to say that what I've seen from the rise of both of these trainers so far in San Antonio, Rise, you've been very, very consistent. You're very cool, calm, and collected. You move through matchups meticulously and methodically. Meanwhile, Elite, you fell to that loser side bracket earlier on in the tournament than you probably expected because you also set very high standards for yourself, but you take every single advantage of a mistake or an opening that your opponent gives you. So I want to start with Rise. You've been the steady hand in the tournament here so far. Rise, how does it feel to approach another grand finals? Is this a new challenge for you, or do you feel comfortable here?
I've surprisingly felt kind of calm and at ease today. I think I just went into this weekend with a decent amount of preparation, so maybe I just felt comfortable with the team. But there's always those nerves. Don't get me wrong.
Elite, do you feel like maybe you've gotten some strokes of luck, or do you feel like this is all you and you're just capitalizing and you're making it work with what you've got?
I'm gonna be real. Definitely got some strokes of luck, but at the start of the first day, it's weird because I'm normally very nervous for my tournaments, but at the start of the first day, I didn't feel nervous at all. I played my first rounds, and then I played Pocket, and I lost to him in like our bracket. And ever since then, I've been extremely nervous for every single match, and it's like flipped. Normally, it's the other way around. Like I'm nervous for matches, then I lose, and I kind of like calm the nerves. It's the exact opposite, and like I'm like shaking from nervousness right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Rise, you never seem nervous, but I know that you also seem to internalize a lot of things. You don't give a lot to the camera. Even when you win, it's more like a sigh of relief than, fist pumping, getting excited. But I call it back to one of my favorite moments of yours when you actually defeated Dunebug in the grand finals. I believe it was in Milwaukee, and you were fist pumping before you could even stand up from the chair. Are you thinking about having a moment like that? Or are you just thinking about the next game? Where's your mind at?
I definitely don't get ahead of myself like that. That was a special moment for me because it was in my hometown, and there was a lot of other factors there. And I just try to. I definitely feel nerves, and like playing sports growing up, they always said like if you don't get big nerves before a big game, like that means you don't care. So nerves are a good thing. But maybe I'm just better at like hiding it than some people.
All right, Elite, you've been one of my favorite trainers to watch the entire championship series. I'm not even being partial because you're here. I really love the way that you just eliminate your opponents in the grand finals. You just move through them so methodically, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0. You were 9-0 in battles played in the grand finals in the previous 2 seasons, but when you took on your most recent opponent in Wadaj in Baltimore, he was actually able to win the reset. Has that changed your mental attitude about how you approach your grand finals now that you are coming from the loser side?
Well, it wasn't. Until the caster said that I haven't lost in grand finals, I didn't really think about that. Like, I just take the grand finals as they are. It's like games, best of 5s, they're gonna be hard to win no matter what. But yeah, I think after all, like the stuff that you casters said about me not ever losing a game until I played Wadaj, definitely got to my head. But
sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. It's part of the game, right? But no, I'm ready for a good set. Good set of battles.
So would you credit Ashish's boot camp to helping you get back in shape so you're ready for the tournament this weekend?
I have not been enlisted in Ashisha's boot camp recently, okay. But I actually. Something that I did do for this tournament was at 12 a.m. on literally the day of the tournament, I caught a Shadow Kanto Marowak. It's my first one, and it was good enough for the tournament, and it definitely helped.
Wow. Okay, so between the two of you, I would like to exchange some words. Rise, is there anything that you want to say to your opponent before you hit the stage?
I I've got a tremendous amount of respect for Sean as a battler. We've been teammates on like a grassroots team for a long time now. So definitely a lot of like scrims and battles have been done between the two of us. And I'm sure hopefully we can put on a good show for the audience.
Elite?
Of course. Thank you, Chris. I have a lot of respect for you, too, as my captain of my grassroots team. No, I'm really excited for this. This is going to be a good match of battles.
All right, well, let's see. There's good, there's great, and then there's elite, and there is one man who has risen to the occasion 3 seasons in a row. Who's going to win our grand finals? Only time will tell, but you need to stay tuned to the channel to find out. Take it back, Jim and DeFi.
That was pretty dang good from
thank you,
Speedy.
Will.
That was,
Yeah.
I like that. I think I was a little bit like trying to keep my composure, like zoned in. It's definitely a different mode. Now that some of you guys know, like I've become a caster with them as well, and I've casted a couple tournaments. Like I'm still myself, right, when I'm casting, but I definitely like try to bring the energy up a notch because I'm naturally more of a reserved, kind of mellow personality. So when I'm a competitor in my interviews, you'll see me more reserved, mellow, natural, versus when I'm casting, I definitely will bring the energy up a notch. But that was pretty epic from Speedy. I like that. Now, time for the grand finals, and we are going to take a look at the matchup. And honestly,
Shielding and
I am going
taking out that
to just play game 1 and then talk about the matchup, honestly. Yeah. Let's play game 1 because game 1 sets the tone here with the Shadow Kanto Marowak into the Shadow Feraligatr. And what I was hoping here is... Oh, shoot, my bad. This is game number 2. Shoot. Okay. Some of our accomplishments. They usually like to go more recent ones, so they have Elite's a 3-time regional champion, but they have some of his more recent accomplishments. So Baltimore finalist, Sacramento champion. So he already has a runner-up this season. You know, which kind of makes me happy for him in a way, knowing what happens here. 2024 NAIC top 64. Production. Am I allowed to question that? Like, that seems like a questionable. I don't think Elite would like prefer to have that on there. And then Los Angeles top 4. I actually did defeat him in Los Angeles on my way to becoming Los Angeles champion. And then they have my 2023 NAIC runner-up. Worlds this past season, I was top 20, top 32. And then Louisville top 8 a couple tournaments ago. But here we go. Let's get into this matchup. And I'm going to wait to break down the matchup to after this first game. So we're going to safe swap Gator after a tough lead, Drapion, and I'm going to throw Hydro Cannon immediately to put the pressure on. And Elite is actually just going to completely stay in here. And you are going to see how this matchup is not good for Gator in the 2-shield scenario very quickly. You might be wondering why I threw instantly here and on bad timing. Well, I knew he had the Bone Club loaded, so what I don't want to happen is throw on good timing, and then he throws instantly, and then I have to go down a Protect Shield. I want to make sure I guarantee that I get a Protect Shield advantage here. So it may look like a misplay, but I don't think that's really a misplay. I think that's more of just like a safe play. I'm going to wait out my switch clock here, and I'm going to come in with the Mandibuzz, but this Marowak has so much energy, and I kind of get really sloppy here in this first game, really sloppy with my counts. I was more so just going off of feel right here, feeling pretty confident that I could air slash down. So more so maybe than sloppy, imprecise, because right here, I thought he was 4 off. I thought he had just gotten to the rock slide and he was 4 off the next. So he lands the rock slide. 1, 2, 3. He gets to a 3rd rock slide. And if I had known, I would have thrown my Aerial Ace before this. But now his Marowak has taken out 2 entire Pokemon, because not only can it fully farm down Feraligatr in the 2s, but it can also hit my team with its energy everywhere. So I'm going to shield the Aqua Tail here and He's going to try and catch on a Azumarill. And we don't fall for it, but I think this is going to just be too much for Drapion to handle at this point. Let's say we had played this a little bit better, and we had taken out that Marowak before it got to that third Rock Slide. Let's pretend we would have right now a Mandibuzz with an Aerial Ace loaded and some health. I think we still lose. So I don't, even though I played that very sloppy, and in the moment, like after this tournament, I was thinking, man, like I can't believe I lost track in that game 1 that cost me. Like, I don't know if that would have changed any results there. I think he was in a commanding position either way. All right, so this game 1 sets the tone for the entire series you're going to see, where Marowak is something in my preparation, some way, somehow. I don't remember scrimming or playing against an entire in my entire preparation. And it's not like it's that obscure, right? It's like somewhat common. It's like secondary meta in this meta. But I won 2 locals. I think I did another local maybe with this team that I won, and I won 2 practice tournaments. And I don't think I played a single Shadow Kanto Marowak, and I'm kind of realizing right now the problem with the Shadow Kanto Marowak is not only can it beat 5 out of 6 of my Pokemon, but the energy just goes everywhere. I don't really have something that can soak the energy. So although Gator can pull me a shield advantage there, if I give him that farm down, it's disastrous, because you saw how much energy it got off against the Mandibuzz. It's not like I can even soak it there. Diggersby is probably like the thing that can best soak the energy, I guess, but it's tough. And as we talked about as well, Rise, if you're so worried about Marowak, this is what everyone said, guys. If you're so worried about Marowak, why don't you just run like Annihilate Diggersby Mandibuzz? Sorry, I'm laughing. Why don't you just run like Annihilate Diggersby Mandibuzz, since the Marowak was coming every single game? Azumarill also exists, and Dugong also exists, both of which are kind of good against my team. And Dugong hard beats Diggersby and Mandibuzz. Azu like soft beats Diggersby, hard beats Mandibuzz, beats Annihilate. So if I'm gonna cover more than one solid answer for the Marowak, I'm gonna be weak to the Azumarill. And that is the problem you're gonna see me have throughout this series. Game number 2. Instead of being behind energy with Gator, I decide to lead it. And I know how this is going to play out. I know he's going to throw the Bone Club here, and I'm going to plan on shielding it and getting off my next Hydro Cannon. And based off how that game 1 went, to me, giving him a farm down here is just too disastrous. I need to swap. Even if I'm giving up Switch here, I need to swap. And Diggersby at least can kind of fight back here against Azu. We can take one attack from the Azu. And I'm hoping maybe I can get a situation where I farm up with one of my other Pokemon to get to a move against that Marowak. So play kind of dynamic here. Ice Beam connects. Diggersby's going to get off a Scorching Sands here. And he is going to throw after 1, understanding I would get to there if he tried to throw after like 3. So he knocks us out. I come in with Drapion, and Elite makes a mistake here. He doesn't throw right away, and I actually CMP him on this Aqua Tail, so he loses an entire Bone Club, which is going to really cost him. Because imagine right now I don't have the shield, right? Like if he throws the Bone Club, it's basically the same scenario, except I don't have a shield. In which case, we're kind of screwed. We're kind of screwed. But I have the shield that I'm able to use on that Aqua Tail. And we're going to land the Hydro Cannon here on Drapion. And, you know, I was just kind of like in that space where I was just trying to like zone in as much as possible. And I didn't even like process this as in the moment as like Elite throwing this game. I just like processed this as like my strategy working. But in hindsight, like I should not have won this game. So Elite is probably sitting there thinking I totally threw that. Meanwhile, I'm like, in the moment, my strategy worked because I was just like, I don't know. I get in this little zone where I'm just like not thinking about anything else. I'm trying not to get too high, too low. I'm just trying to keep my composure, like think about the next game, one game at a time. And I'm like, my strategy works. So let's see if I decide to run it back or not. No, not even close. And we get the best possible lead here. What could go wrong? We lead into the Drapion, we lead in the Marowak. It's met by the Drapion. This is great. And I'm thinking like, if I play this out, maybe I'll leave with enough health where I can like pivot Gator. But then you're going to see me, I don't know if I'd classify it as a mistake or just like make the wrong read or the wrong decision. We'll see. But he's just going to play this out with Drapion. And I'm going to throw after 1 here. I think I could have thrown after 2 actually, but then maybe he would have shielded. Maybe that would have been better for us. We knock it out. And here I'm faced with a predicament, right? Do I swap Gator hoping that he also swaps? I think that was the only play. Because what you're going to see happen now is this farm that I give him ends up being kind of rough. Because we know that Marowak ahead is going to really be a problem for Alligator in the 2-shield scenario since all shields are still in play. So I think in hindsight, if I had swapped Gator right now, I think I'm in a good spot actually. Because let's say even he stays in, Gator just significantly outpaces Azu and can probably, if he's willing to expend shields on Azu, then the Marowak doesn't have shields. That's good for us. Or if he like doesn't use shields, we're gonna get shields down with Gator with the extra energy we build up for the whack, and then maybe Toxapex gets to a brine or something. So I think let's just let this play out. But what I did decide to do is in the moment, I'm like, I got to keep alignment here. I can't afford to get Toxapex aligned with whack. But this farm I give him, I think, is just too disastrous. Not only because of the farm, but because of the fact that I can't get ahead on energy with Gator. And if I can't get ahead on energy with Gator, well then it's just going to 2-shield mud slap through me here. So this game 3 was one I think I could have had back. And to be fair, the previous game, now in hindsight, is one Elite probably should have had. So maybe we could argue he should be 2-0 up here. But now we have to come in with Toxapex. The Marowak had pretty much 100 energy. It's going to start firing off these Bone Clubs. And we know that we're going to have to eat 1 here. Obviously, we're going to shield both Bone Clubs because those are going to do the most damage. We're expecting the Azu catch attempt on the Brine, so we don't fall for it. And I still have a win con here. The win con is undercharging the Sludge Wave perfectly to get the farm down. And how much should I undercharge this Sludge Wave? Well, I undercharge it too much. I undercharge it a little bit too much because what you're going to see happen here is I barely survive this Play Rough. I live 1 more bubble, and look at the health. I died with the Brine. I fainted with the Brine, and if I had maybe done, 3 more bubbles, 4 more bubbles, I win that game because I get the farm down, and I come out with the Brine, and I win. So that is a tough one for me to watch back, knowing that I had 2 separate potential win cons of swapping the Gator and not allowing the Azu farm down, or perfecting that undercharge. One of those games you really wish you could have had back. This gives Elite a 2-1 lead here. And keep in mind, we're 7-0. He's 11-1. He's already lost in this tournament. So we just need to win 1 best of 5 to win the championship. He needs to beat us twice to reset. Here we go. Positive lead here. Diggersby into Drapion. He doesn't bother bringing the Azu this game. Maybe the Toxapex scared it a little bit. Aqua Tail going to connect. Scorching Sands gets correctly shielded. And you know what? I normally bait Fire Punch in this matchup. However, I wanted to get shields down for the Marowak. We're going to shield up this Aqua Tail here. Going to get off the Scorching Sands. And he's going to let it go. He comes in Dugong. I swap Gator. I really don't know what I could have done here, actually. He plays this too smart. Because let's say I give Dugong that Ice Shard down on Diggersby. You know what? The only thing I think I could have done differently would have been maybe swapping Drapion and hoping he counter swaps, and then I can like I don't think that would have worked either. Oh man. In hindsight, I don't know if I could have done much different this game. Except maybe like bait with Diggersby. Successfully bait with Diggersby, have more energy, maybe use that energy later. Wow. Yeah, this is kind of tough. And this Aqua Tail is obviously just not going to be enough to one-shot the Marowak. Is going to come out with energy. And I fully wait out my switch clock, just hoping maybe, just maybe, I can pull off like a peekaboo play, like a show and go. Wait out the full switch clock, but the switch timer was just barely not up. And Elite is going to reset the bracket here in pretty convincing fashion and take game number 4 here, which is going to reset the bracket. They did a phone switch here just to make sure the phones don't get like overworked since they're being streamed and broadcasted on. And we just have to regroup. And at this point, like you might be wondering, what are you thinking? Are you like really nervous? Are you on edge? I was consciously just trying to like, you know, take a deep breath. Okay. That set did not go your way. I've been in this situation before. I've been swept as the winners finalist, and I was able to come back and win in the reset. So we're just trying to keep our composure and just try to think about our lines, think about what he might bring. And in this first game of the reset, he really switches it up. He ran K-Wack, Azu, Drapion like 3 out of 4 games. And now he really changes it up 2 games in a row. Dugong lead. Rise, why did you not just lead the Mandibuzz if he's leading K-Wack every single game? Well, now he switches it up to Dugong. It's a mind game, right? It's not as simple as that. So he's going to double Icy Wind here. So we call the first one. We're going to shield this one in case it's a drill run. I'm going to build up energy. And this Hydro Cannon is not quite going to knock out. He swaps in K-Wack. I get off this Hydro Cannon. We are double debuff, but he's still going to protect shield it. And we're going to be able to align Mandibuzz here onto the K-Wack. A rare time where we actually got Mandibuzz on K-Wack in a situation where it was switch locked. So this is good for us. Rock Slide, going to do a little bit less than half. So like we talked about, even though it's a positive matchup for Mandy, K-Wack can still fight back with energy. He's going to fire off the Rock Slide here. I'm going to let it go, knowing it doesn't knock out. I'm expecting maybe Dugong to come in. And I'm going to throw the Aerial Ace here. He's going to let it go. He gets off, oh, actually undercharge and get an extra Shadow Claw with my Gator. And this is kind of nice for us. And check out what happens here. We get the perfect Mud's Shadow Claw down, and we come out with a Hydro Cannon. So that actually worked out perfectly for us, getting this shield from the Ariados. And now we have Drapion against Ariados, which if this was normally the one shield scenario, we would lose. But because we got that extra shield, we should be in a pretty good spot here. Normally you want to Aqua Tail first, right, to get it off before the debuff, but because we're already 1 behind, there's no point in that. I decided to catch this, and I figure even if he doesn't fall for the catch and stings down, then I clear my debuff anyway, and the crunch should KO after a single debuff. So we pull off the catch in game 1, and we're going to take a 1-0 advantage here in the reset. Game number 2. Elite goes back to his reliable line that he ran many, many times in this series. This is a line that I know is like a possibility, and I'm almost like trying to come up with a line in my head that like can handle this line if it presents itself. So I'm thinking, okay, I'll get both shields, and once again, I just don't feel like I can afford to give him this mud slap down. He gets 3 more mud slaps here. It just feels like it's game over. So I actually swapped Drapion into Marowak, which I know looks kind of crazy. But we lure out the Azumarill, which is really good for us. This is really good for us. And we're going to fire off the Crunch here. We get off another Crunch here. Unfortunately, this is not going to be quite enough. And also, unfortunately, the 0 shield scenario is like the worst scenario for Drapion, especially since we already took a mud slap from that Marowak. And now I'm forced to kind of come in here with Gator, forcing him to expend energy. And man, the perfect overfarm by Elite allows him to get rid of the Gator first. And now we are going to have to eat an Ice Beam as well. And I think this might be the nail in the coffin, doing enough damage where, yeah. And you might be wondering, why not throw your attack rise? Well, I wasn't 100% sure if Foul Play knocks out from this range. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But also, I feel like my only, let's say it does knock out, what am I beating that's left at this health? Nothing. Except Ariados. So I played on my only potential win con here, which is Ariados in the back and coming out with 2 Area Laces. So I undercharge this and I get the Air Slash down, but it's Drapion. And this is just isn't going to be enough to knock out the Drapion. Drapion already has the Aqua Tail loaded. And he's just going to sting down. 1-1. Game number 3 of the reset. I go with the Gator lead once again and go with a line that I had ran earlier. A line that I had ran earlier where I was able to win that game. But like we talked about, I actually only won that game because Elite didn't throw that Bone Club he had loaded, if you remember. So this may very well just play out the exact same way. And I think this was like a little bit of an oversight by me. Maybe a little bit of an oversight. Where I don't think I recognized like that the only reason I won that game was in the moment was because he didn't throw that Bone Club. I think I kind of like forgot about that. So this is playing out kind of the exact same way as it did before. And I end up just making kind of a sloppy play here in this game 3. We're going to go for the Scorching Sands here, of course. Going to actually get the attack fell. So it would have been nice if I threw that before the first Ice Beam, right? Another thing I could have done differently, maybe. Scorching Sands. No debuff that time. Ice Beam is still going to knock out here. Honestly, Ice Beam probably would have knocked out even if we had taken like a debuffed Ice Beam the first time. I don't think it would have made too much of a difference. And I made a call here that maybe he would do like a bubble first. But no, he doesn't. And that was just kind of a naive decision by me. Like, obviously, he's probably not going to do a bubble first. He's probably just going to hard swap Whack. Because I'm probably not going to come Mandibuzz in here, right? So, and even if I do, I guess he's at least like saving Azu for some. So, coming in Gator here, I don't think there was really any reason for me to come in Gator. Would it have changed the outcome? I don't think so. Because I think this time, Elite just throws the Bone Club right away at Drapion and won't give me the opportunity. But it just feels bad to lose so convincingly here in this game. Feeling like I didn't really even give myself a chance. And you could argue I should have like thrown the Aqua Tail, but he's still at a full health Pokemon, so we're just going to concede there. So Elite's now 1 game away from taking the championship, and we're trying to devise a line, and he has run the same line like 6 games in this series. And I just have to think of a line, and I'm honestly just going with a line that I feel like can hard punish the line that he's been running. Like, as simple as that, right? So we go with a line that we ran earlier. Mandy, Gator, before we had Toxapex. This time we're going to go Drapion, because Drapion is just a little bit more flexible than the Toxapex, and our Toxapex got punished before. He's going to go for the Aqua Tail here. After we did lead successfully into the Marowak, so a great lead for us. And Elite actually made a mistake. He actually threw on bad timing, which gave us a free Air Slash. So there was 1 game early. The only game we actually won in that first series was the game where he didn't throw that Bone Club. And this time he gives us a free Air Slash. So this makes this even more comfortable for Mandibuzz, outpacing to this Aerial Ace that we wouldn't have otherwise outpaced to, and forcing a shield from him. At this point, I'm thinking, I don't think it's worth expending a Protect Shield. I think I'm better off getting Farm. And in hindsight, Gator would have been better here. Because what's Gator really afraid of? I guess I was a little bit worried, like, if I came in Gator and it was something like a Dugong, it could, like, debuff me, and then I might be in some trouble and, like, forced to switch later. So we keep 1 Poison Sting worth of energy banked on Drapion, and we have a little bit of a head start here with Gator against the Azumarill. For Alligator, lands the Hydro Cannon. Elite's going to do 1 in throw, of course. And I'm going to use my final Protect Shield here on this Play Rough. We're going to do 4 in throw. And we know that Elite is 2 bubbles away from his next charge attack. So we are actually going to throw here. And I think Elite might have actually been able to win this if he let Azumarill go there and closed with Whack. Because I'm still 2 away. But now he has no shields. And I'm able to freely swap and get off this Aqua Tail here before the next Bone Club. This knocks out, and we are going to steal game number 4 to send this to a 1-game sudden death winner take the San Antonio Regional Championship. And at this point, I was sitting back trying to think of a line, and one Pokemon that's been good for me in this matchup that we haven't brought, that everyone said I should bring, is Annihilate. I haven't even brought it in this entire matchup. And there's a reason for that. The reason is, what's he mostly been bringing? Azu, Marowak, Drapion. Mandibuzz does good against 2 of those things, Drapion and Marowak. Annihilate does not do well against Marowak. Despite what you may think, if that matchup is on even energy, if they take a Rage Fist, Marowak can get to 2 Bone Clubs and force both shields off of the Annihilate, or you can even win the 0-1 shield scenario, getting a shield advantage and switch advantage. Unless you're willing to expend both shields with Annihilate, it's a bad matchup. What's he been bringing? Azu, Marowak, and Drapion. In this decisive game, I end up deciding to run a team that I think is most likely to hard punish what he could bring. And the team that I come up with is Mandibuzz, Gator, Annihilate, hoping that it's either a Drapion lead or a Marowak lead, in which either case Mandibuzz can stay in. And then hopefully we would align Feraligatr with the Azumarill. And Marowak try to save both shields for it to then close the game. Sorry, Annihilate. This does leave me vulnerable ABA weak to Azumarill, in which case my hope was we could swap Gator, get a shield advantage, and maybe try to sweep with Annihilate as a shield advantage. And what are we going to see here in the decisive game for the championship? It's going to be Azumarill lead. After Marowak for 7 out of 9 games, he goes the Azumarill. And we're going to safe swap Feraligatr. You see Elite, though, he's nervous because he knows he's behind energy now in this situation. And I get off the next Hydro Cannon. And the reason Elite is so worried right now, I believe at least, is he understands if I want, I can double shield and take back Switch. I can double shield and take back Switch. And if it was something like a Toxapex in the back, I could get Toxapex on Azu and Mandibuzz on the Drapion. But we know we're ABA weak to Azu. We have no Azu answer left. So I have no choice. What does taking Switch do for me here? Nothing. I need the shields. I don't need Switch at this point. We come in instantly with Mandibuzz. We want to get rid of this Marowak. But his Switch clock comes up just in the nick of time before we can get rid of it. And he banks a boatload of energy. And we swap Annihilate after he catches the Aerial Ace on Azumarill. We're going to go for the Rage Fist as soon as we can on proper timing. Remember, he caught a move, so the Switch timers are desynced. This could be a play rough, so I'm going to shield it, even though I know it's probably an Ice Beam bait. He goes for another Ice Beam here. I know this is an Ice Beam, but I was just thinking in my head, like, what does more, an Ice Beam from Azumarill or a Bone Club from Shadow Kanto Marowak? I wasn't really sure, honestly, in the moment, so I decided to shield the Ice Beam. And now we make the wrong call. And Rise, why would you throw instantly here? Remember, he had so much energy banked on his Marowak. He has the opportunity to combo play us after that Ice Beam. But he doesn't. He makes the right call, and he doesn't do that. So he goes for the Ice Beam. He gets our final Protect Shield. I'm expecting the combo play from Elite here, so I Rage Fist immediately. But I make the wrong call. And after making the wrong call, I wait, expecting the combo, and Elite doesn't wait. And he combos with the Bone Club, and you see my head tilt. Those are two minute 50-50 calls. Elite makes the right one 2 in a row, and to make it a trifecta, he predicts the Mandibuzz swap and Rock Slides the Mandibuzz. In the span of about 30 seconds, Elite makes 3 consecutive great 50-50 calls, which puts us in a terrible spot, and then a bit of a misplay here by me, losing track of energy on Whack once again, and CMPing here on the Aerial Ace, and this is going to be the nail in the coffin. If I had committed to a farm down here, there may have been a slight chance. Slight chance. I don't think so. But if I had committed to the farm down, I would be able to Aerial Ace, swap, Rage Fist, and if I forced Drapion to expend energy, maybe I could get to another Aerial Ace, but at this point, the game is over. Elite has double Aqua Tail, and there's no reason for him not to fire back-to-back. And at this point, I say, great games, man. Congratulations. And Elite becomes your San Antonio regional champion. And I, after being on the winner's side of the bracket, 7-0. Unfortunately, we'll have to settle for second place here. And
being tall on the stage, giving a hug to his captain and claiming the title.
All he had to do was just catch one Shadow Canto.
One thing I really admire about this, which is something I like to try to do, is Elite understands. He's also won 2 regionals before, and he understands like he's in such a commanding spot here that he's not like fist pumping and going crazy. Not that there's anything wrong with that for people that showing that emotions, but I think Elite like has enough wherewithal and empathy to understand that like this is also a tough moment for me, that he's not like jumping around going crazy.
Standing tall on the stage, giving a hug to his captain.
So I appreciate that. I thought that was
title.
really humble, classy, respectful of him.
Shadow Canto Marowak at midnight today, yesterday.
Yeah, and as Wholesome said, caught the Shadow Marowak at midnight and then wins the whole tournament with it over the weekend. You see the final standings here. Elite in first, myself in second, Studmuffins, Pocket and Dunebug fourth, fifth, Flying Pizza. Pyro Panda, congrats to him. I think got his first top 8 at a regional. And then the Torian, who's been really consistent this season with a Zapdos as well, makes top 8. Yeah, Torian did get a bit unlucky with some state of the game stuff. Dunebug as well got pretty unlucky with some state of the game stuff in his match against Pocket. So really unfortunate there for those two. But in the end, Elite becomes the champion. I will show you guys my interview and Elite's interview. Studmuffins as well. You can feel free to go watch his interview. Congrats to him on a 3rd place finish. I believe his highest ever placing.
Again to Studmuffins, 3rd place at the San Antonio Regionals. All right, in 2nd place, we got Rise to Occasion.
I brought a cowboy hat, and I was hoping I get to wear it in the event of a win, but
Rise.
I decided to wear it anyway. I asked people off stage, like, is it weird if I wear the cowboy hat even though I lost? They're like, no, wear the cowboy hat. I'm like, I'll only wear it if you wear it too, Elite, because I don't want to be the one with it.
Now in your home state of Texas, I just want to hear your initial thoughts with this 2nd place performance here.
Yeah, of course I would have liked to come away with the win. Didn't live up to the name this time, but I'm proud of how I played, and I had a lot of tough performances in the past. Like,
sorry to interrupt myself, but one thing I have noticed that I think I'm going to work on is I do sound a little bit like a broken record, I think. I feel like in so many interviews I talk about like my bad performances I've recently had, and I'm like happy to have a good one, but like over the course of my Pokemon Go Championship Series career, it's probably been like 50% or more of my tournaments have been pretty good, versus like less than that have been bad. So I think I need to stop being as pessimistic, honestly, as I like self-reflect and always talk about like, yeah, I'm coming off a few tough performances. So like, I feel like I say that every single time.
2-2 at NAIC. Baltimore didn't top cut. LAIC didn't top cut. So to come away 2nd, and I think I hit #1 on GBL today as well. But
stay tuned for the video.
Would have liked to get this win more. I'm overall proud of how I played. I'm sure I'll look back later and be like, man, I really misplayed that game. Could have taken that one. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with how this weekend went.
I mean, that is an amazing weekend. So does that mean that after the tournament yesterday, you went and competed against the best trainers in Go Battle League and secured it last night to get #1 today?
Sometimes I get anxious before day 2. I can't really sleep. So yeah, I was playing some GBL last night, and I think I hit like 34, 55. So #1, yeah.
Awesome. I kind of got flashbacks to 2022 in Milwaukee when you were facing Dunebug, and it felt like you were in such a negative team composition matchup. Did you feel like you were in that negative team composition matchup this time here in San Antonio?
A little bit, yeah. I told Elite it was at a point I knew exactly the 3 he was running in the same order, and I couldn't figure out a way to beat it some of those games. But I don't want to take anything away from him because I think he played perfect, and there was a few games I could have definitely played better. And he just was the superior player today. He lost early on in this tournament, and it was a pretty convincing win in my opinion, and he deserves it.
Yeah, and last question for you, Rise. You're the only trainer in Championship Series history for Pokemon Go to win a regional every single season. What does that mean to you? Do you still want to keep that record alive? Do you want to win a regional this season as well?
Absolutely. I'd love to if it happens, but it's not something I would, I'm setting out as a goal per se, but I do plan on competing a lot in the second half of the season. I'm not going to UIC, but I'll be pretty active in the NA remaining tournaments. And I know there was, I was saying I was my own worst critic, displeased with some tournaments, and some buddies were giving me a hard time. I think like Drew and Elam were like, Rises really fell off, but hopefully today can prove still got it a little bit, and looking forward to competing again.
Well, you proved a lot. You were able to take down your rival in Dunebug. You were able to get #1 on the Go Battle leaderboard and get
Elite's interview. Shout out to Butters. He's always good. And by the way, there's a lot of mixed emotions when I'm up there, right? Like definitely sad to have lost in the finals, but also there's a lot of truth there. Happy with a second place finish. It comes with, you know, a lot to be proud of. It's not easy to get to the finals of a regional. And I thought I was just being like lighthearted and self-deprecating there with that last comment of like I heard when a few of my buddies were kind of teasing me like I had like kind of fallen off this season with some of my performances. But Elam, if you're watching, like he DM'd me like solid, like you were throwing some stray. I caught some strays, and I sincerely hope it didn't come off that way. Like in the moment, I was just that, you know, I'm just trying to like, I'm obviously a little bit down with how it went. So it's like, that's just my form of like self-deprecating humor. Definitely didn't mean that to come off as strays. To me, that's just bantering and with someone I respect. So let's go to Elite's interview.
Cowboy Elite as well. Congratulations. And I just want to get initial reactions here. You're the champion. How are you feeling?
Feeling awesome, yeah. It was a long losers run. I'm happy to win. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, you did that once before in Fresno, I believe, to become a regional champion for the first time. You went through that losers run.
Right.
Earlier on, just to give a little context, there was an ice beam that you pulled off that you're absolutely shocked to pull off against in losers round 3 against the Tarian. You didn't think you would get there. You were shocked. Are you shocked that you're standing here right now as regional champion?
Yeah, I'm extremely shocked. After that point, I was like, what if I went on to win the whole thing from there? Because I did not think I was making it past that set, and here I am.
Here you are, and you did it. So last question here, or actually, I want to give you an opportunity as a 3-time regional champion. Do you want to give any shout-outs to anyone?
Of course. Firstly, shout out Loud Jess. I'm back at it. 3-time, baby. We're both 3-time regional champions. And then also, against Torian, I want to also give a huge shout out to him because, like I said in the interview before, I got my Shadow Kanto Marowak literally the day of the tournament at 12 a.m. on a rocket balloon. And then right after I got it, because we were staying together, he helped me craft the team. And I ended up beating him and ended up winning the whole tournament. So, yeah.
And it ended up probably being your strongest Pokemon in that grand finals. Congratulations once again to the 3-time regional champion Elite. And don't go anywhere because we're going to wrap up and see what's up next in Pokemon Championship Series.
Congratulations to all of our champions.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up the San Antonio Regional Championship. And, you know, life doesn't always go exactly how you want it, how you plan. It's not always a fairy tale. And there was a point where, like, I started to feel like, you know, things, I just kept winning. I felt like I kept getting some breaks, and I could have this sad mentality of, oh my gosh, I was right there. I was the winner's side of the bracket. I just had to beat them once. And don't get me wrong, like, after this tournament, of course, as a competitor, I'm having those feelings of what if I did this in that game? What if I was more patient with the Annihilate in the final game? What if I brought the Toxapex more in the back, you know, for the Azumarill? Like, all those things are true. Or if I brought Toxapex in that final game instead of Drapion, I could have, like, 2-shielded for Switch in one, perhaps. But maybe he makes a catch. Maybe that makes a difference. I don't know. So, yeah, don't get me wrong. they're all those what if scenarios in your head, but overall, I think it's important to like be proud and have some respect for yourself and how you did and stuff. And also just congratulations to Elite. It's very reminiscent of how I was feeling after NAIC a few years ago. It's a little bit different because I had fallen to the loser side of the bracket a few rounds before, and I had won like 4 in a row to get to the grand finals, and then reset the bracket against Wadaj, and then it came down to a game 5 in which he was able to win. So you're like super happy with such a great performance. Second place at a tournament comes with, you know, some decent prize money and points and stuff, but and a trophy or medal. But of course, whenever you're one game away from potentially being the champion, which is in reality, right, it's a big difference. People, the reality of it is people are going to remember who the champion was. They're not always going to remember who the runner-up finisher was. So that's just the way competition is. And you try to, they say like if you're not first, you're last. That's not necessarily true in terms of like certain like prizing and stuff, but in terms of being a competitor, what I've been saying is like they make a lot of storylines, right, about Rise, myself, and there's a few commenters that like when I speak in the third person like that, they think it's really weird, but I'm always doing it in the context of when I'm speaking as like what someone else is saying, right? I'm like pretending to be someone else. I'm not like just speaking about myself in the third person randomly for no reason. I think there's like a pretty clear-cut distinct difference. And then you get commenters that say, Rise, why do you keep talking about the commenters? And then if I like respond to a commenter that's calling me out, then they can't handle it. Because like apparently you can disrespect somebody, and then if they respond back to you, then it's a problem and it becomes a whole big deal. So I think we're all just trying to do our best, right? And I always try to be respectful and try to be an honorable man. And also, again, with that comment I had in the in the interview with a couple of my buddies that were giving me a hard time, I really hope that didn't like come off the wrong way, because it seemed like a couple people brought that up after, but I just thought I was making a lighthearted, self-deprecating joke how my season's been kind of bad. So prior to this, so all that said, thank you guys so much for your support. One thing that I can't help but be grateful for amidst like all the stuff I just said is at these tournaments, I'm shocked by like the amount of people that came up to me either to ask for a picture or say they watched my videos or like Spicy Saturday. There's a group of like 3 guys that came up to me towards the end, and I thought they were like trolling me. like, hey man, like keep up the good work. Like we love your videos. I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, like Spicy Saturday. It's like, it's like our favorite thing. So, when it's all said and done, yeah, with the storyline, that's the point I was trying to make. Like, I would have loved, you know, the storyline, 4 regional championships in 4 seasons. It could still happen. Who knows? Maybe it's a possibility. But it is hard to get to a grand finals in general, so it's tough when you get there and can't quite finish it off, finish the job. Job's not finished, Kobe Bryant. But when I look back on this like chapter of my life, and maybe when I have kids one day and I show them videos, like more so than being whatever it ends up being, 3-time regional champion, or maybe we get a 4th one day, maybe who knows, we get a 5th, or even more. I'm not one at a time. Okay, let's relax. Hopefully though, they can look back on me as like someone that conducted himself well in interviews and was respectful, and more so than someone that won a certain amount of tournaments. And I guess that's like a message I wanna leave you guys with. And yeah, thank you guys so much for the support. Stay tuned for the Go Battle League #1 video that is coming. I know that I said that would be today, but I did want to do San Antonio first because I am a pretty big advocate of like the Show 6 format and the Play Pokemon Championship series. So all that said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, smash that like button, share it with your friends, share it with Pokemon Go players across the world that maybe aren't as into PvP. Maybe this could show them like some of the more advanced stuff in these tournaments. And I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.